Hey guys, John here. So today's video, we're going to be talking about MIDI controllers because that's something we use all the time and that's something that we never really talk about even though we should. So a long time ago, my first MIDI controller that I bought was off Craigslist and it was an M Audio 88 key controller and it had a pitch bend wheel and it had a mod wheel, which at the time for me was great. I was like, I have 88 keys. I have every key. I can do whatever I want because I have all the keys, right? And it was cool. I kind of actually liked it. And when I brought it home, I laid it down on my desk and it took up the entire desk, which was kind of crazy. And for me, I don't like having my keyboard off to the side, like you know how there's some places where they have to the side. And that drives me crazy because if my speakers are on and I'm playing on the side, I hear like my right ear more of the speaker than I hear my left ear and vice versa if I had it on the other side. So that's kind of crazy to me. So I had to have it in front of me so I have like an actual stereo field, right? I mean, you could put on headphones, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. So I had it on my desk and it was cool, but it took up the entire space and maybe a little bit extra on the sides, and it didn't really have space for anything else. So fast forward a little bit from there, I'm like, I need something a little bit smaller and some more bells and whistles because I want some pads on there. I want some sliders, some encoder knobs, maybe a screen that might be kind of cool. So I looked on Craigslist again, and at that time I found an M Audio Axiom 61, and I found it at an actual good deal. It was like maybe, I can't remember exactly. It was like maybe 100, 200 bucks or something like that. I was like, okay, sold, cool. I bought it, I picked it up, I brought it home. It was much heavier than I thought it was going to be because like it's just a MIDI controller. I mean, how heavy can these things be? It's actually pretty heavy. So I put it on my desk and it was 61 keys and it fit perfectly. It was kind of nice. So I was like, 61 might be my thing. I kind of like 61. I still have space for my left and right. That's fine. And I had drum pads, sliders, encoders, the whole deal. So I plugged it in and it turned on. It was really cool. And when I was going to select it on FL Studio for, you know, like what MIDI controller that you're using, I couldn't find the actual one for the Axiom 61. I was like, maybe there's just not a script for it. Maybe there's somebody on the internet who's made one. I don't really know. I looked a little bit and then I was like, why should I just scour the earth to find a script for this controller I have? I mean, I can use all the keys. The pitch bend works. The mod wheel works. Maybe, you know, maybe I'll just like map an encoder or slider if I really need to in the moment. And for the most part, it was fine. The transport stuff worked. And I used that one for a very long time, and it was a cool controller, but after a while, I needed something actual modern and current because that thing just kind of really didn't cut it anymore for me. I wanted like something that actually was new and worked with my software. So come to find out, I was like, there's a lot of new stuff out there, and what should I get? I like the 61 keys. That's kind of cool. I was kind of toying with the 49 key, but that seems a little bit too less. Like you're going to feel a little bit restrained, at least for me. So while I was looking through that, I kind of found out that that the keyboard I would use most was my Arturia Mini Lab, like the really small MIDI controller that I could take anywhere. Like if I was traveling for work or if I was going someplace or somewhere, who knows where I'm going, I would always take it with me because like it was portable, it was reliable, it was cool, it worked, all the buttons and knobs worked and all that. So I was happy with that one. I was like, I like this controller. Let's see what else is out there that's new. So I used FL Studio for a long time and I was like, ooh, there's this new controller that came out called the FL Key that's designed for FL Studio. Maybe that's a calling to me. And I was like, okay, could this be cool because it is a controller for your DAW, or could it be almost restricting because it's a controller for your DAW? So I was kind of toying with that. I was like, I'm not really sure. I watched a lot of the reviews out there on YouTube, read forums, read what people said about it. For the most part, it was mostly good stuff, right? It's like, okay, you know, that's nice. A controller that interfaces FL Studio. That's kind of a new thing to me because, you know, there was no script on the Axiom. So this might be kind of cool. You plug it in and it works. So cool. And then I was like, okay, what else is out there for like this keyboard size? 61 keys, maybe some pads, some sliders, stuff like that, right? And then there was another Novation one out there. I forget exactly what it's called. I looked at that one for a little bit and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep that one in my mind. And then I had my Mini Lab in front of me. I'm like, what does Arturia make at the moment? And at this time, it was the Keylab Essential 61. Like, okay, this is kind of similar and kind of something what I'm looking forward to. And I had a choice of these three. I'm like, I don't know really which one to go with. Ultimately, I decided to not get the FL Key because I think the part of me was kind of like, maybe a controller for your actual specific DAW might be kind of strange because then if you switch to something else or if you use it with something else, it might be a little strange. I don't know. So I kind of erred not to get that one. And then some stuff I read about the Novation was, I don't know, it just didn't really work as well. I don't know. It could have been a bad review. I don't really know. But for some reason, that one just didn't really call to me. And then I was wondering, I was like, okay, if I get the Arturia, the third version of that, the MK3, is that actually going to work fine in FL Studio? Because I didn't want to get a MIDI controller, plug it in, and then have to go hunt for another script. I'm like, I don't want to do that again. So ultimately, I got the Arturia MK3. I got it, I plugged it into my computer, and then there was already a script there. I loaded up, and it just worked perfectly in FL Studio, which was like, I was like, oh my God, I'm already spoiled. It works as a script for it. The sliders work, the transport works, everything is fine. I play the keys, the keys play fine. The only thing that I was like wondering, should I get or not, was like polyphonic aftertouch. Now, the Essentials does not have polyphonic aftertouch, and ultimately I decided, I was like, it's cool to have that, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like I really need it, or I'm missing out. If I need to do something like that, then maybe I can get something like that in the future, or just key it into the DAW itself. That you could do that as well. So ultimately, I have the Keylab Essential 61. It comes with some cool software. The piano is really cool. It comes with the UVI Falcon, or the workstation, which sounds pretty cool. But I kind of just needed a controller that like the things worked and stuff mapped, and more importantly, it felt right, because the Axiom, the encoder knobs, like they felt really loose. And maybe this is because it was an old one, I don't know. But it felt like if you moved it a little bit too fast, like if you kind of spin it, it would actually like move a little bit more on its own. It felt like really uncomfortable. And the sliders were kind of like jerky, like you moved up. It wasn't a fluid motion. It was like, it would like go in steps almost. Like it'd be a little bit faster, a little bit less resistance. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's an old one. Maybe when they were brand new, they might have been much nicer. I don't really know. But anyway, so the Arturia one is nice. The encoders actually have resistance to it, so it kind of feels like a nice knob that you can actually map things to. And the sliders felt the same way too. So that was kind of cool. There's the screen on it. You have an arpeggio or arpeggiator on it, and you have chord mode. It's just, it does everything I personally need it to do. So it was a really cool one. I was happy with it. And I am kind of considering getting some other types of controllers, maybe like some pad stuff or something like that. So that's what I'm kind of curious what you guys have. So what kind of, like, do you guys use the launch pad? I've kind of looked into that one, but I don't really know how it integrates into Bitwig. So that's kind of a question I have for myself. And speaking of Bitwig, this is kind of the last little tidbit I'll leave you with here. So when I had the encoder knobs and the sliders, and for example, I would open up Pigments. I'm like, okay, so I want to map all the main knobs that I have on Pigments onto my MIDI controller so I can just use them quickly, right? You can use like the Arturia mode, and that's pretty cool, but I wanted to customize it more specifically. So I did that in FL, and it was fine. I took some time and really thought about it. I'm like, okay, what exactly do I want on my controller to control Pigments? Now, finally, I like made a whole setup, and I was like, okay, this is how I like it. I have all my encoders mapped, my sliders mapped. But then, like, if I opened up a different synth, then those would still control Pigments. I'm like, I don't really want to have to like get too deep into this. I just want to like actual make music, make sound, not just have to like spend an entire day just like encoding and assigning knobs. Now, come to find out, in Bitwig, that's such a cool process, because now with every synthesizer I open, so like let's say I open up Pigments, for example, I'm like, okay, I can make a page on that device and say like, okay, here's what I want these first 8 to do. The next page, here's what these next 8 should do, and I can switch between those pages, and I can save that within Pigments. So every time I open up Pigments inside Bitwig, all that mapping is already done. Now, if I have a different synth that I want to map differently, I do the same process with that synth, and every time I recall the same one or a different one, it's going to load up just how I left it. So that's really cool, and that changed the game entirely. So in combination with the Keylab Essentials and with Bitwig, it's just like a really cool match. So that was kind of a really cool thing to come to find out, because it makes mapping encoders and sliders much cooler and much more accessible and practical. So yeah, that's kind of just a quick talk about the MIDI controllers. Yeah, what do you guys have? What do you guys use? What do you recommend? Also, what do you don't recommend? Are there certain ones that you got that you kind of didn't like? Do you have an FL key? What is that timeline like? And also, what are some cool pads? Like, since I'm in Bitwig now, I kind of want something like that launch pad that might be kind of cool to have as like an accessory thing as well. So yeah, so thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you guys use and what you actually recommend against using. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video.